Wes from Carl Wesley Sewing Patterns here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to assemble a paper sewing pattern from a PDF download. Now, this video is going to specifically be about how to assemble paper patterns that are purchased from my store as a reference for my customers. However, the process is pretty similar for PDF downloads you purchase from any other seller online. Before you can start assembling your sewing pattern, you need to print out the PDF. And the most important part in that process is to make sure you select 100% scale in your print dialog box. Otherwise, the garment or item you're trying to sew will not be the correct size. Also, you want to print out single-sided, and if you are using one of my patterns, you want to have that print in color so that you can more easily see all the different sizes. Before we start assembling the pattern, I just want to point out a few things on this single page that I have here. At the top of every one of my pattern pages, there is a letter and a number. This one is A1, so that is the first page of the pattern. And somewhere on your printout there's going to be a diagram that looks like this, which is going to show you the tiling order of the pattern pages. The letter will indicate the row going across, and the number is going to indicate the column going down. So it will be assembled A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and then the next column will start with B's, and then the next row will be C's, and so on. Also, I want to point out that on the top of every single page that prints out, there is two squares in the top corners, a 1-inch square and a 2.5 centimeter square. Those are used to determine if the scale of your pattern is correct. That is, if it printed out the correct size. You're going to want to take a ruler and measure those and make sure that it comes out as the 1-inch or 2.5 square. If you measure it and the measurement is not 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters, then that means your print settings were incorrect and your pattern is no good. You don't necessarily have to measure every single square on every page, but I would at least measure the squares on several of the pages to make sure that your pattern was printed at correct scale all the way through. A few other things I want to note are that the dashed lines going all the way around each page, that indicates the edges of the pattern, and everything outside the dashed line is stuff we don't need. The pattern will be assembled dashed line to dashed line, and the reason for that is, to my knowledge, most printers don't print out all the way to the edge, so we have to make the page a little bit smaller to make sure we get everything. Also, on the middle of each side, there is a kind of triangle right here. That is a locator to help you match it to the next page, and when the next page is taped on right here, this will create a diamond shape. Finally, the way I do my patterns is that I do the different sizes by color, and there will be a chart somewhere on your pattern like this. If you're working from a different pattern though, the different sizes may be indicated by different varieties of dashed lines. So now that we've gone over all that, let's actually start assembling our pattern. Now we're going to assemble our paper pattern, and basically what we're doing is taking each one of these little tiles and taping them together in order, referring to this diagram, to have a large page that's all taped together showing the whole pattern. So we have A1 here. The next page we're going to do is A2. Now, one option that you can do before you start taping all these pattern pages together is you can go through and cut off the excess white edge using that dashed line all the way around on every page. But I tend to be a little bit on the lazy side, I guess, and I tend to just fold along the dashed line where it's going to meet the next one before I tape it, and I'll show you how. You do want to be very careful to either cut directly on that line or fold it directly on that line as close as you can. So now that we've creased that, you will see that this is going to meet right where this diamond locator is. And you really want to try and get this matched up as perfectly as you can. The dashed lines will match up perfectly as well. So let's put a weight on here. And just put a couple pieces of tape. I usually will lightly tape it first and then go back later and reinforce my patterns with extra tape. Now we have A2, we need to add A3, and I'm going to fold the next edge along the dashed line. Very carefully, directly on that dashed line if I can get it. Lay that out along here, matching the locator and the dashed lines. And you also start to see that the lines of the pattern will match up perfectly, just like a puzzle. Again, you want to try and match everything up as perfectly as you can so that you're going to have the best chance of success when sewing up your pattern. Now I think you've kind of got the general idea of how this is going to work. So at this point, I'm going to speed it up and assemble the rest of the pattern. Now, when we get to B2 here, we're actually going to have to fold 2 edges to fit it in to here. So we're going to fold the side edge and the top. And we're going to have 2 locators now. And as we go along, there will be locators on every side of the page to make it easier to match up perfectly. Now here is what our completed pattern looks like. This was about 20 pages total in all. to get this fully assembled. At this point, I normally would turn the pattern over and put some extra pieces of tape on the back just to reinforce my pattern a little bit and make it stronger so that I can use it over and over again for a while. And that's all there really is to it. Now we've got our paper pattern fully assembled and ready to cut out in our size so that we can get ready to start sewing. The more of these patterns that you assemble, you will get quite a bit more efficient at it, but when you're first getting started, probably a good idea to take your time to make sure you're doing everything accurately. Now, all the sewing patterns that I offer that you purchase come formatted for printing on a home printer, which is your standard 8.5 by 11 paper size. However, if you have a plotter printer or you would like to go to a professional printer and get this printed out on a larger piece of paper so that you don't have to assemble this, all you need to do is send me a message and I can quickly reformat this for you in a file that you can take to use on a plotter printer. Now, this pattern I assembled in this video is a new pattern I will be releasing very soon. It is a pattern for a sweater vest using sweater knit fabric. So if you are interested in knowing about this pattern when it releases soon, please do subscribe to my channel so that you will get a notification when I come out with the video tutorial on sewing the sweater vest.